Welcome to another weekly S&P 500 analysis video. In this video, we're going to take a look at the price action for the cash index of the SPX or the S&P 500, and we'll also look at the price action for its derivative, the EES, the E-mini S&P 500 future, the SPY, the ETF for the S&P 500, and also the NQ, the E-mini NASDAQ 100, and also the QQQ, the NASDAQ 100 ETF. Now, I did post a textual version that will give a little bit more context behind the market beneath the surface, basically looking at the sentiment and also the market internal. And I have posted on my newsletter the post of the market. And be sure to go and read that post for a broader market context. And I have put the link in the description below. Now, let's take a look at the SPX, the cash index for the S&P 500. As you can see, it finished the month right up at the monthly upper range and sitting near the 5,900 price zone here. In addition to that, if we also take a look at the this particular trend line that I'm going to draw on here, and you can see that it came up to this trend line and got a little bit of a rejection the last couple of times that it came up. Basically, it has encountered some form of resistance up here. Now, let's take a look at what the market is pricing in for the coming week and also for the month of June. For the coming week, the market is pricing in the upper range between 6,025 and 6,014.20 for the upper range. And for the lower range, it is pricing in between 5809.10 and 5765. So those are the upper and lower range for the weekly expected move for the S&P 500. Now for the month of June, the market is pricing in 6,140 and 6,113.60. Now notice that it is slightly below the all-time high. So the market is not pricing in an all-time high for the S&P 500 in the month of June. Now for the lower range, it is pricing in between 5,709.80 and 5,600. So those are the ranges for the month of June and also for the coming week. So what we're going to be watching for the coming week is to see would it be able to break this trend line here and get up to the 6,000 area and get above this weekly upper range. And if it is able to get back above this weekly upper range, then we could see the monthly expected move to be in play and possibly put the all-time high back in play. Now, if it is unable to break this trend line or hold above that 5,900 zone, we could see that the lower range is actually pricing in around this 5,800 area. So we could see this level to get tested again. We notice that there has been resistance support in this zone here in the past. So we'll see would it be able to find buyers once again to push it back up. Now, if it doesn't and it is unable to hold this 5,800 zone, then we will see the price of the S&P 500 possibly come back into this zone here, this 5,700 and 5,600 area. And that is where the market is pricing in for the lower range for the month of June. So those are some of the levels that we want to keep an eye on. I think the key is we're looking at this 6,000 level for the S&P 500 to break through. If it breaks through and get back above the 6,000, then there's a good possibility that the all-time high could be in play. Now, it should not be a surprise if we see a pullback and dip back below the 5,800 level and come into this 5,700 and 5,700, basically fill this gap before we get another push up. Okay, so that is a possibility as well. So those are the price scenario. And now let's go and take a look at the derivative, the ES, and also the SPY. Looking at ES here, we basically are looking at some of the market projected major move. For the coming week, we're looking somewhere around 6,025 on the upper range here. Okay, and in the lower range, then we are basically looking at between 5,810 and 5,770. Now, for the monthly upper range for the month of June, it is between 6,175 and 6,122. Now, notice that it is not pricing in a new all-time high for the ES here. This is the new all-time high back in February 19. Now for the lower range, it is pricing in a 57.0550 and 56.25. So that's what are the ranges for the week and also for the month. Now what I want to bring to your attention is how we use the fixed volume profile to identify some of these potential support and resistance. Now if I take this February 19 all-time high and come down to this low here, that's what's made back in April the 7th. So we got this composite volume profile for this range here. And notice where the price came up and found potential support and resistance. So if you see here, it came down and came up to this little bit of a high volume node here, right? This right here, and got rejected and pushed back down. And look how easily that it went back down to this low volume node, that low volume zone, and came down into this high volume area and found buyers, and it pushes back up. And now it came back up, and here's the point of control for this composite. This is where the high volume area is. And you see that it worked itself up and came up to this, gap up to this high volume node here. And it continued to move up. And where did it move up to? It moved up to this, near this high volume node here. This volume edge right here, right? This is the low volume area, this low volume zone. Came up to this low volume edge and pushed back down and got rejected. And once again, it came down to this low volume zone here, and it got bought up and pushes back up into this high volume area. So you can see that right now we're looking at the weekly projected upper range. And where is the market projecting at the major moves? Right up at this high volume node right here. And let me take out the candlestick, and we can see the volume profile a little bit easier. So you can see this is the upper range for the coming week, and it is right up here at this 6,020 area. And the lower range is basically back into this low volume zone here. Right, you see this, 5810 right near this high volume node down to this area here, this low volume edge. Come to this low volume zone and into this low volume edge. And also for the month of June, notice the upper range is basically come up, price up to this high volume node here, and also come down to this low volume zone. Basically going to this low volume area and into this balance area. And that's what the market is pricing in for June, the upper range. And for the lower range, it is coming back down to this area here, this balance area. And here's the point of control for this composite. Now let's put the candlestick back on, and we're gonna move this fixed volume or this composite all the way to the present now and see where the volume profile telling us those potential resistance. And once again, on the June lower range, here's the point of control for this composite, and it is right near the 5670 and a quarter year, somewhere around there. All right, so if we see a pullback, here's the lower range, and it is right here at this high volume area and into this, this edge here. So if we see a pullback, we're basically looking to find potential support right here, at this area near the 5770 and possibly get a bounce. Now, if it doesn't hold support at this area, then we will look for a price to come down to this point of control, this composite point of control near 56, 58, 56, 60 area. Now, if we get a push up, here's what we're going to be looking for. This high volume node here, right up here at the upper range, 6020.75, that area. And if it's able to push through this upper range, then we'd be looking for this, this balance area to be in play and possibly come up to this high volume node here at 6087. And then as it progresses throughout the month of June, then if it continues to push toward the all-time high, then we could see this high volume area, this balance area to be in play, and that would be the upper range of the monthly expected move. So those are some of the key price level to keep an eye on. Now, if you missed part of this video, just rewind back and go back and take a look at it. I know I go to a lot of level here, and I did not label these, and it kind of clutter up the chart. So I didn't bother to put those level on this chart here on this segment of the video. So if you want to go back and look at the various level that I pointed out, just rewind the video back and kind of pause at that level and take a look at it. Here, looking at the SPY here, let's first identify what the market is pricing in for the coming week. For the upper range, is somewhere up at this 601 and 599.80. And for the lower range, it is between 579 and 575.5. For the month of June, the market is pricing in an upper range of 611.67 and 609.70. And notice that it is slightly below the all-time high here back in February of this year. And the lower range is between 569.10 and 558. So those are the ranges for the market. Now let's go and take a look at this composite volume profile. I'm using the all-time high down to this low here. And we could see that the point of control is right near where the June lower range is being priced in. So we're basically looking at the possibility of the price coming back in to this high volume area and try to find balance if we see the price come back down. Now, if it is pulling back next week, we could see that it will come down to this area here, this volume edge. Right, that's where the weekly lower range is being priced in at this volume edge up to this low volume zone here, right? So if we see this price come down, we could find some potential support here. You notice that previously we have seen support here when it come down to this area and found buyers to buy it back up. Now, if it is going back up, then we will see that it will try to come up to this high volume node here. And that's where the upper range of the weekly expected move, the market is pricing in for the price to come up here, because this is the high volume node, and that's where liquidity resides right now if it's on the upside. Now, if it is able to push through this balance area, this low balance area, then we could see price move through this low volume area quite rapidly and up into this June upper range, and that will push this thing up into this balance area here. Now let me remove the candlestick, and then we can see that volume profile. This area here, we see there is a balance area, and that's where the monthly upper range is being priced in right now at this upper portion of this balance area, and that could put the all-time high in play. Now let me go back and put the the candlestick back on, and I'm gonna move the fixed volume profile and get a composite volume profile from the all-time high to the present right now. And you can see that the point of control has shifted up, and it moved up to this 590 area. So that tells us that the market is accepting higher prices up here. So there's a good chance that we will see price to come up and try to test this edge and try to break this balance area, this high volume area, and into this high volume node. So we could expect to see price to come up to this upper range. Now, if it is coming back down and try to retest this area, which is right here at this low volume, this lower range of the expected move, then we can see the price come down and possibly test this high volume node here. And it might even dip into this low volume zone and into the June lower range and try to find support here, because we saw a little bit resistance here, right? You see all these previous points when it came down to this edge here, and it found resistance, got rejected back down, but eventually it broke through and gap up away from this level. So right now we could see the possibility of coming back down and fill this gap and retest this level here, this edge or this low volume zone. So that would be the downside possibility. But for the upside right now, we're seeing that if we could get above this point of control, then we could see the upper range to be in play for the upper range for next week to be in play. Here we are looking at NQ. Let's see what the NQ, what the market is pricing in for NQ for the coming week. It is pricing in the upper range between 21,900 and 21,832 and a quarter. And the lower range is between 20,905.75 and 20,750. So those are the weekly range, the upper and lower range. Now for the month of June, the market is pricing in the upper range up at the 22,633.25 and 22,323.50. It is a few points shy from the all-time high back here made in December of 2024. Now for the lower range, we are looking at the between 20,414.50 and 20,100. So those are the weekly and the monthly range. Now let's go and take a look at this profile. Let me put up the composite volume profile using the all-time high to the low here back in April. And we could see that the point of control is right up at here, the near the 21,814. And that is also where the weekly upper range is being priced in around this high volume node here. And in the lower range, we see that it is pricing in somewhere inside of this little bit of a balance area here, near the lower edge, and this low volume node here, and this balance area, this high volume area here. So we could see the price to come down and possibly get down to this lower range and get a push back up, because we noticed that right here a couple times that it came down to this low volume area, right near this edge here, we found buyer and pushed it back up near the point of control up at this high volume node here. Now there is a high volume node here, and this is the point of control for this particular swing. Now for the lower monthly expected move, we see that the market is pricing in at this area here, this high volume area here. It is actually pricing in. So you can see that it also come down at the lower level, is near this high volume node. So you see that when the price came down, we came up. When it bounced, it came up to this edge here and found rejection, and it pushes back down and found buyers right at this high volume node here, and it pushes back up. Then once it broke this edge here and get into the value area of this composite volume profile for the swing, then we see that price gapped up and came into this a little bit of a high volume balance area. And when it moved up here to this high volume node, it got rejected and pushes back down, and it found buyers stepping back in at this high volume area and pushes back once again and try to come up to this point of control. So now if we move the volume profile, the composite, to the present, and we see that the point of control actually shifted down a little bit, right? Because it was up here near this weekly upper range. Right now it's shifted down to this high volume node here. Now it's just established a new high volume node. So we see that the market is actually pushing the price a little bit lower on the NQ. Now again, the weekly expected move on the upper range is still targeting this high volume node here, the previous point of control, and the upper range for the monthly is still near the right up here at this edge here near the all-time high. Now for the lower range, for the weekly, it is still here at this particular high volume area. You see, this is the edge here that we're looking at for the lower range, and pushes up here at the upper range is this right here, this high volume node. Okay, so that would be the 20,905. So the price come down here, we expect it to probably test this high volume node and bounce around. And if it dips down, then we probably look at this low volume node to be in play, and hopefully we could see that the buyer come back in like previously, the last couple times that the buyers come back in and pushes back up. Now if the buyer doesn't show up this time, then we could see that the price will come down to this edge here, and that would be the upper level of the low range for the month, the monthly expected move. and that would be somewhere around 20,414. And we could see that it also possibly come back down and into this area here. There's this high volume node, right? There's a high volume node here, and that is the lower edge of the lower range of the monthly expected move. Looking at the QQQ, we see that the market is pricing in for the coming week between 532 and 530.40 for the weekly upper range. And for the weekly lower range, the market is pricing in between 507.80 and 504. And for the month of June, the upper range is going to be between 545 and 541.60. And the lower range is between 496.60 and 487. So those are the ranges for the week and for the month of June. Now let's take a look at the composite volume profile. Now it's interesting enough, the NQ actually made a new high back in December of 24, but the QQQ made a new high on February 19 of 2025. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a composite volume profile from that high to this low here back in April and see where the price have found support and resistance previously, coming back up from this swing, this downswing. Notice that the price came up, found a little bit of a rejection up here at this edge here and got pushed back down, and it came down and found support right here at this high volume area, and then the buyers step up and came back up and pushes up back into this point of control. And you see that once it broke above this point of control, it came back and back tested, and it demonstrates that the buyer is willing to buy it at this level here to push it higher. And you see that it came up and found rejection right up here at this volume edge. And when it came back down, it found buyers right up here at this low volume area, and it gapped up and moved up here and all the way up to this area here. See this high volume node. Now it did found a little bit of a rejection here at this volume edge and pushes back down and tests at this edge, this low volume area, to get a rejection, and we got rejection back up into this high volume node, and then we found it came back down to this high volume area once again last week. So what we're going to be watching is for the price to see would it be able to continue to move higher. Now if I push the volume profile to the present and set up the this entire composite, and we see that the point of control actually shift up a bit, and right now it is sitting right at this 519. Okay, so we're basically looking at the possibility of moving above this point of control. If we could get above this point of control and move above this high volume node, there is a little bit of a high volume node here, then we could see that the upper range of the weekly expected move will be in play. Basically, we're looking for the price to come up to this low volume area and come up to this edge. And if it could move up to this edge and pass through this high volume area here, then the all-time high is pretty much in play, and the June upper range will be in play. Now, if the price unable to get above the POC, this composite point of control, or unable to hold above that, then we could see it come back down and possibly retest this high volume node here and this low volume area. So we'll see what the buyers step back in when it pull back to the lower range of the weekly expected move. Now if it doesn't, then we could see that the price come back down toward this edge here, right? This edge, and right inside of this June lower range. And this area will be in play here because you see this is a high volume node and is right coincide inside of this June lower range. So we can see this high volume area or this low balance area could be in play if the lower range of the weekly expected move is taken out. So those are the level and scenario for the coming week, and the ranges for the month of June, and also for the coming week for the SP 500, the SPY, QQQ, the ES, and the NQ. Now be sure to go and check out this post on my newsletter at Substack, the Pulse of the Market. I have the link in the description below. Again, that provide you with the context of the sentiment and the market internal and a broader look of the market, including the other major market index like the Dow Jones, the New York Stock Exchange Composite, and the Russell 2000. And if you find this video to be useful and informative, be sure to give it a thumbs up to help promote this video on YouTube. And if you are new to this channel, click on the subscribe to this channel. It really helps support the channel. And be sure to go and subscribe to my newsletter, The Pulse of the Market, at substack.com. And there's a free subscription there, so you can get a taste of what are some of the additional content that I provide in that newsletter. Thank you for watching, and good luck on your trading.